So thank you for joining us for our first bonus edition of the Dex Legacy, in which, well, let's be honest, we're not sure what's going to happen, but I suppose if you're hearing this, it wasn't a complete disaster. My name is Chris Gregory, and I'm the more genial and less psychopathic alter ego of Nathaniel Dex. And I'm joined by our writer, Emily Inkpen. Hello, Emily. How's your day been?
Well, I've been working. I finished work approximately 11 minutes ago and just about had enough time to open a glass or, well, uncork a bottle of wine. And now I'm talking to you lovely people. So, yay.
Fantastic. It's a very warm day here in England, and as pale Brits, we're not used to this sort of thing. So do please bear with us. I have iced tea in a Dex Legacy mug, which is probably, wrong etiquette-wise, but there we go. And we are joined by two of our brilliant actors today. Lewie and Annika, would you like to introduce yourselves? Who's going to go first? Annika.
Sure thing. I'm Annika Kordes. I'm playing Osa, the lovely Osa. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to having a good chat with you. So I'm excited.
Excellent. Thank you, Annika. And Lewie.
I'm Lewie Watson. It feels weird saying both names. I've not done that since school. That's a bit about me. I play Devek, and I'm looking forward to getting stuck in.
Excellent. And thank you so much to both of you for joining us for this chat. And as well as being warm here in the UK, there's also been some big news because Boris Johnson has resigned from his office as Prime Minister. And Lewie, I know you're a big Boris fan, so I wonder if you'd like the opportunity to pay your own special tribute to him.
Yeah. I mean, it feels like, 4th of July was not that long ago, right? So, like, as a Scotsman, this feels like the precursor to ours. It's quite nice to see the union disintegrating. But yeah, cheers, Bojo.
Well, I asked that question because obviously we are a political sci-fi, and so therefore we can talk about political matters. I was hoping that I was going to be able to practice my bleeping out skills there, Lewie, but you've let us down, and there wasn't a single expletive. But I'm sure we can build on that as the conversation goes on. Anyway, now we've brought you together because frankly, you play the terrifying combination of Osa and Devek in the Dex Legacy. One, a vilified weapons designer who, unlike the designer of the atomic bomb, Oppenheimer, seems fairly chilled out about the awesome destructive power of what she has created. And let's call a spade here. Lewie, you play a disgraced doctor who was struck off for undertaking weird genetic experiments on unsuspecting patients, or victims, as they may more accurately be described. So, Annika, start with you. How do you feel about playing a complete psychopath?
Well, how do you feel about that? I guess, I don't know. I don't really think about it in that way, to be fully honest. I mean, of course, like you read the script, you hear the audio afterwards, and you go like, oh my God, what a horrible person. How insane. But I think when you approach it, you have to look for the human in her, I think. And I mean, she has also lots of elements where she shows that side. And I think it's finding the right balance on when to tap more into that energy and when to kind of, lean a bit out of that and see it more like a one-to-one human conversation. Not that psychopaths are not human. But yeah, she pushes it for sure.
Yeah, we'll talk more about how you've kind of, well, I suppose you and Emily between you have created this this character, and we'll talk more about that. But Lewie,
I would say like psychopaths are definitely human. They just come from a slightly different angle to everybody else, and they think their angle is right. They think they're reasonable human beings. They're not, they're mistaken, but I mean, to them, they're perfectly human.
So are we going down the psychopaths get a bad rap road here, Emily? Or
They would think so.
there's the quote from Killing Eve, isn't there? Never tell a psychopath they're a psychopath.
Yeah, although Osa is admittedly quite open about the fact that she's a bit psychopathic, and so are all of them. I think of all of the characters there, Osa is probably the most upfront about it.
And less aware probably is Devek. Do you think Devek realises he's slightly on the psychopathic spectrum?
No,
if it is a spectrum.
If it is a spectrum,
it is. Yeah,
it's like on or off, really, isn't it? It's not. Really a sliding scale.
He is a bit. But I don't think no. I think he I'm not going to say he reminds me of myself, but it does remind me a wee bit of myself when I was in first year of drama school. I was like, it's just all about the work. It's all about the work, mate. It's just all about the work. And that's that. I think that if you were wanting to sum him up, that would be his mantra. This is just about the work. Just 100%.
Yeah.
Well, as we go through this episode, I suppose we should say there might be the odd spoiler if you've only listened to the first part or you've not even started yet. So we will be playing a few clips. So you may want to just close your ears as we play some of those clips because they will give some plot away. But there are some fantastic scenes between Lewie and Annika's characters. So we thought we'd share some of those with you through this episode. So, Annika, we were talking. You were talking about the way that you approached playing Osa, and I know that Emily, you've been amazed at the way that Annika's brought Osa to life, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, if I say that in book one, which obviously I wrote book one, and then the audio drama is a prequel series, Osa wasn't actually in book one at all. She was mentioned, but her presence was completely removed. And then she only comes into the story in book two. But since you were playing the character and everybody responded so well to you in the first episode, I actually wrote her in to the first book.
Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah, quite a big impact on the general Dex Legacy.
I mean, I have to say it's a very fun character. So I could see her being missed there. So, yeah, definitely.
I think you've made her an absolutely indispensable part of the Dex Legacy, and I didn't realise that she didn't feature at all in that book. But I'm glad she does now, because obviously when we make the film version of the book,
yes,
Annika will be playing that role.
Don't
laugh, Lewie. We are going to make a film version.
Yeah. No, I just feel like I'll get you and Bremner in Trainspotting because he was meant to be Renton. Yeah. And then Ewan McGregor happened. That's my luck. That'll happen. Ewan McGregor will swoop in and do Devek.
I've been chatting with his agent actually, and he is available. So yeah,
there we go.
Yeah. Don't give up the day job.
Getting Obi-Wan.
I was about to say, absolutely not, and then I thought Ewan McGregor though. Ooh.
Yeah. Never season 2 of the audio drama.
My English accent's better.
Your English accent is amazing. I always just completely, whenever I'm talking to you on these, when I'm talking to you in these calls, compared to when I'm listening to you, and it's so completely different.
We should probably say at this point that some listeners may not recognise Lewie's voice actually, because it is rather different. So where are you speaking to us from this evening, Lewie?
I'm currently back in my hometown, or Hampton, as I would be more likely to say, of Elgin, which is in the northeast of Scotland, somewhere in between Inverness and Aberdeen, just off the Murray coast. Moved back here during the pandemic. Tried to do the city again, and sort of just went, I need to be back on the right side of the border. And but it's a shame because I'd have quite liked to have been in London today, playing the Benny Hill theme tune on Pall Mall or whatever. You know what I mean?
Excellent. So are you kind of officially a Highlander then?
Well, so we are actually higher than Inverness geographically, but like county and council wise, we're not strictly Highland. And that we're always spoken of as Highlanders, but it's not really worked out for me when it's come to Outlander casting. So I'm trying to shy away from that moniker at the moment.
I've heard that Ewan McGregor's up for a role in.
Oh yes, isn't it right?
Yeah. As soon as he's done with Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
Kenobi.
I'll do Obi-2. Don't worry, I'll be Obi-2. It's fine.
Yeah.
Obi-2 Kenobi.
Yeah.
Little known twin brother they never talk about. And Annika, you're I mean, I said at the beginning of this that we're all pale English people, but I mean, actually, only half of us are pale English people. So, Annika, you're from Germany.
I am. Though right now in sunny London.
Sunny London, good.
Yeah, but I grew up in a very, very small little town that you probably won't know. It's called Paderborn, and we are known for having a lot of little lakes around. So for me, lots of little swimming and boat sessions on the weekends. But now in London, so yeah.
Where is Paderborn near? Is there a big city that our listeners might be able to kind of place it?
Do you know Cologne?
I know Cologne, yeah.
Yeah, with the big cathedral.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like an hour away, and then also like an hour and a half from the Dutch border.
Okay.
So on holiday, we actually I don't think I've ever went, but lots of my friends I went to school with, they took like what do you call them, like the trucks that you go in and camp in, like a camper van.
Camper van.
Yeah, so they all in the summer holiday go camper vanning in the Netherlands.
Excellent.
Yeah,
good beer in Holland, so I understand.
Yeah. And in Germany as well. I mean,
absolutely, and Belgium actually. Everywhere around there has very good beer, and Anyway, so
very effective beer, or shall we say efficient beer?
Well, it gets you drunk really, really quickly.
Yes, highly efficient beer and delicious.
I once went on a hockey tour in Holland, and I don't remember anything. I think there were some matches, but possibly I don't know.
Some smell. Yeah.
Possibly, yeah. So Emily, I wanted to ask you. I know that you said you've already referenced actually writing Osa into book one, where Osa wasn't there originally, but I think you've mentioned that you've had the voices of our actors in your head while you've been writing the books. So how does that work then as part of your writing process?
It's so not so much the books, because they were all written once we'd already sort of started work properly on the audio drama, but after episode 1 and 2, and I was still writing the later episodes, it's really weird when you guys are in my head, because I do sort of, it's when you've got the voice in your head and you're writing, and you can sort of get the sort of meter right and everything, and how they talk and everything, and the patter, you can kind of hear it, and it sort of feeds into how you write. But yeah, with having the voices, your voices in my head while I was doing it, it was actually really helpful, because there was something really I could anchor onto. And I think, I mean, part of it, if Lewie, for instance, you brought a certain energy to episode 1 that, when I was writing other episodes, I was like, okay, so we're going to hear a bit of that, Lewie. But then there was a moment in episode 3 where you had a good long speech that was in a very different tone. And I remember writing that and thinking, ooh, I wonder how he's going to do this. I was very excited to hear how you would just sort of like slightly alter the way you did that. And it was when you were talking to the kids, and you were talking to the kids for the first time, because we've never seen the adults interact directly with them before. And yeah, I found that very exciting and really interesting to sort of to write, anticipate, and then hear. Actually, I've got a question for you related to that. Like, if, did you have to think about that? Was that something that came quite naturally to you when you were reading the script? Did you, how did that happen?
I think it's interesting, especially because we record this remotely. You're not necessarily faced with the people that you're speaking to, so it almost makes it even more important to think about who you're trying to affect with what you're saying, or who's in the room. So that part of this way of working really helped the sort of change in tone and emphasis and pacing as well. And I think like really making sure that, in this case it's a mic, but the children, trying to affect them is sort of the best, I find, the best way of going about it. And having met them by listening to it, that made it so much easier as well, because it wasn't a slow process before, but the first sort of 3 episodes we were really building something, and then we started to get momentum, I think. So that's definitely, it's been a really interesting way to work, and it's helped me. Like, I don't think I ever stopped learning as an actor, but like, this has been an amazing project for really like testing myself.
That's really cool. So did you like hear them when you were delivering it almost? Did you have like a picture of them when you were sort of doing that speech?
Yeah, and I suppose it's quite weird because I know Kelsey quite well, because I was a year above her at drama school. So like, it's quite easy to sort of have her in my bedroom. That sounds really weird. But have her there, and knowing those characters that little bit better as well, sort of judging how they will react, and knowing which line is for which person, because I think like Devek is internal rhythm is quite high, I think, but when he's being deliberate, like he knows he people is his business, right? So he knows how to play people, and I think like in that speech especially, like he was pulling the strings big time.
Yeah.
What about you, Annika? How I mean, that kind of being separated from the rest of the cast, it's tricky, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know. I think really interesting to hear your process, Louis, because I felt mine was quite different. Like, I did kind of the opposite. I really tried to distance myself from the recording and just imagine, of course, like doing the work, like who are you speaking to, like as you said, like being specific, but kind of just embracing maybe that psychotic energy of, but you are in your own head. So kind of just testing, okay, how far can I go with a sound, or how far can I go with a word or a sentence? I don't know, because maybe it made it, I mean, I didn't know any of you before the recording, so I didn't have like any like recalling in that sense. But I felt like I didn't know the voices enough to be able to predict a reaction or something. So I just tried to kind of embrace the mental internal maybe world that she has created for herself.
I think that works really well though, because obviously Osa is often on the outside of everybody else. Like in the conversations, especially like there's one later on where you are very much Osa is very much sort of out, like it's when they're talking about Varian and his potential having a child, and the fact that he's going to be completely removed from that situation, and Osa is completely outside of that, and all of the people like Devek and Tristan and Nathaniel are all on one side in it, and Osa's character seems to be completely removed from it and just saying, wait, what are you even saying? This is ridiculous. How can you be talking like this? And yeah, so maybe actually that feeds into that kind of separation almost, like you know, but at the same time you do sound completely in the moment. But yeah, it's interesting.
Thanks to the great editing of Chris.
But stop it.
I also feel like it's about like what these characters seek, and I mean I can only speak for Osa, but I feel like she's like with how she's looking at the children and the others that she's surrounded by, like she's always seeking for a connection in a way. And yes, they give her recognition for what she spilled, but not maybe as a human being. And I think having that separation in a way kind of worked for her in that way.
I think you just demonstrated that you thought about this way more deeply than any of the rest of
I just made that up. I just made that up.
No, it's true. Yeah, absolutely.
I was going to say, actually, I'm just picking up on something you said there, Annika, and actually you referenced as well, Lewie. You know, when we did those first couple of episodes, we didn't know there were going to be any more. It was all quite experimental, I suppose. But you've been remarkably consistent in the way you've played the characters from that first episode through to the last one. So are you always referencing back previous performances, or do you just feel you got that character in your head and then were able to just carry that through?
I think when I was auditioning for Devek, we sort of spoke. You gave me a brief sort of outline of the character, and then we spoke about Boris Johnson. He keeps coming up, man. The boy's resigned.
You're obsessed.
I know.
Who's that?
Who is he? Where did you find him?
He used to be the Prime Minister.
Oh yeah. And then we sort of spoke about David Tennant's Doctor Who, and that was like my doctor. Like I was the right age. I was like, oh, he's a Scottish dude. Like knowing that I wanted to be an actor at that time as well. So like that's always sort of, I'm not doing my impression of it, but I always sort of come back to that sort of energy, and also to a certain extent his philosophy as well. But also I will listen to the older episodes just to sort of be like, yeah, that's just to hear even the vocal placement, because that can so easily go if you're not doing it day in, day out like you would in maybe like stage or film or whatever.
A proper production, you mean?
No, just like on tour or something. Came out. I mean,
yeah. Imagine a Dex Legacy tour coming to a theatre near you.
Yeah,
or various icons, live recordings.
Yeah. A stage version of the Dex. How are we going to do the Heaven One airship and things like that on stage? Anyway, we'll come. I'm sure we'll find a way.
Challenge.
It's good. It's a musical, obviously, right?
Yeah, naturally. Yeah. We can have an inflatable, couldn't we? Inflatable airship.
Just fly it around the audience.
Yeah. Yeah. Just imagine it's really big.
The drummer from Motley Crue.
Yeah.
Exactly. Let's think small.
Yeah.
Exactly. Emily, you were going to ask a question about physicality of acting, weren't you?
Yeah, because when you're getting ready to do a sort of live show, obviously, and when you're going into rehearsals and everything, acting is a very physical thing, and there's warm-ups and things that you do, a lot of them very physical, when you're about to go on stage. And I was genuinely wondering about whether or not any physical warm-ups happen when you do audio work, or whether it's a completely different way of working. And I don't like, because you sort of see in Lord of the Rings special features, which obviously I have watched because I'm a massive nerd, but Andy Serkis, who was doing when he was doing the performance of just the audio, he was using his body, and they were saying, well, we had to put him in the actual film because he was so physical in the audio recordings that it was like he was in it anyway. So yeah, I was just wondering, how much of that do you guys do? Yeah, start with Annika. Let's go with Annika.
I can give you like that's what you want to hear answer, like, yes, I'm always fully warmed up. And then the realistic answer, which is like, maybe like 80% of the time I do my warm up, and then the other 20 it's like, okay, let's keep going. I don't know. I think I have my setup, and I always like there's always something physical you do, like whether that's a relaxation. For me, I think it's more relaxation to open up all like the spaces so that you can just be free and in the moment, and the voice can come out as you want it, and it doesn't crack, or so that you're in control of your voice, basically. But I feel like maybe for Osa more so, because she's very like held. There's something very like statuesque about her. I actually didn't need a lot of movement. That's not to say maybe for another character, I would take more space. But I think for Osa, it was something actually very still, I found. So.
Yeah, there's not really an Osa fight scene or a scene where Osa's running or anything like that. So maybe we should write one into season 2.
Osa does not run.
She floats.
Osa programs missiles to go very fast. Osa does not need to run.
They go fast, so she doesn't have to.
Yeah.
How about you,
Louis?
Yeah, like there's the like not technical things but practical things. Like I've got quite bad hay fever, and so like making sure like my it's quite bad today. I don't maybe you won't be able to hear, but making sure like sinuses, throat are clear. Also for me, like working in the accent, maybe like the couple of days before, I'll just sort of practice it, and just to make sure I don't drop any sounds, and then make sure that I've got the articulators going, because I don't really use many articulators in my everyday accent. So making sure that they're nice and crisp. And then for the actual recording of it, like my setup is under a bed sheet, so I've got to be quite still, which is really good for me as an actor, because my biggest note always is like, it's too much, man. Just rein it in. It's like working with the Tasmanian devil, like whoa bro. Like, so like having that sort of enforced stillness is really good for me. And like, if I ever get to be on stage again, like that'd be nice. But it's definitely gonna inform that work a little bit as well, which is exciting.
You can take a bed sheet on stage with you.
Yeah. I'm just gonna do shadow performances, like shadow puppets. They won Britain's Got Talent once, didn't they? Like they're cool. They're still cool.
Yeah. Just style it out, yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, Emily, you're as well as being our talented and imaginative writer, you're also in it as well. What about you? Do you obviously we put your voice through a voice synthesizer?
Yes.
But you're still very much recognizable, I think. What are your warm-up techniques? And
well, like Louis, I am I wouldn't say I'm under a sheet, I'm under a duvet.
Duvet fort.
Yes, I call it a duvet fort. Really, the main fort bit is my own head. So I do also have to be
you're a turret in the fort.
I become fort. Okay, I become fort.
That's acting for you.
Exactly. And because I'm also playing a robot, having that forced stillness. Yeah, having the forced stillness for playing this robot is actually quite good. And also because sometimes I hate the fact that I've written, like, I can write really long sentences and long lists, which are sometimes very necessary, but Auto doesn't breathe because Auto is a robot. So sometimes I really struggle with sort of, I have to really like, and I sing, I'm a classically trained singer, so I have to do this sort of like proper belly breathe and then like go for it on the proper vocal training kind of level to try and get this sound out, but with barely any breaks and no stopping for breath or anything like that. And then it's sort of, you have to avoid going at the end. And yeah, so physically it's more a case of staying very still, achieving vocal regularity, and breath would be the big thing.
And not swearing at the neighbours.
Not swearing at the neighbours.
Because we have had, I mean, obviously, listeners, you won't have heard any of this, but as the producer, I do get all the expletives between takes. And because I apply the voice synthesizer, I get the expletives as auto. So it's very amusing. And when we do a kind of outtakes reel one day, we'll share that with you because it is really funny. Not as funny as some of the other, Charlie's outtakes are fantastic.
Yeah.
But anyway, sorry.
Love the outtakes. Yeah, all of the outtakes. We have a note. I always record at midnight, and my neighbor has a yappy dog. Lets their dog out every night at midnight for 20 minutes at least, and the swearing happens.
I want to hear them now. I'm like,
yeah.
I'll send them over, Annika.
Yeah.
For our ears only, I think. Just for now, anyway.
Yeah.
We are a family show. Actually, we're really not, are we? We're not a family show.
Yeah, I was going to say, what kind of family?
Yeah.
Dysfunctional is the thing. So, I mean, we talked about warm-ups. My warm-up is, I mean, it's minimal because I am not really an actor in the sense that you all are. I felt I was kind of, I sort of agreed to be Nathaniel Dex in episode 1, thinking that would probably be about it, and that he wouldn't be appearing through the rest of it. But he does, and so I've had to do some
title
acting.
Character.
Yeah, the clues were there, weren't they? Didn't necessarily read them, but
when you put it like that, Louis.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Dex. Yeah. But I sort of do this kind of a singing warm up that I've heard people do, which is basically trying to say pepperoni, macaroni as quick as you can, and that just gets the tongue going a bit, and then mozzarella, gorgonzola, and just so on. Mostly Italian foods, and it just gets your tongue moving. And
so it's not a very vegan warm up. I will say that.
No. It's more carnivorous, I think. So obviously, you had either of you done any voice acting before the Dex Legacy? I think you've both done bits and pieces for alternative stories, hadn't you? Had you done anything before that?
I did a couple commercials and I think maybe one other audiobook, but that's also long ago now. I can't remember. But yeah, a little bit, but not too much.
Yeah.
What about you, Louis? Had you done anything?
I did so bits at drama school, which was really good, and then I was whilst at drama school lucky enough to get picked for the Carlton Hobbs competition, which is
this BBC thing, isn't
BBC sort of they pick 4 people from each school go to the BBC on a day, and you try and out radio each other. And sometimes you bump into other drama schools in the corridor, and it's like West Side Story, man. You're like,
Gets in the Sharks.
Yeah.
Does it actually come to blows, or is it?
No. Well, I had to be held back, but that was so that was my Scottish prerogative. You know what I mean? Yeah.
The thing is, because it's drama school, do you actually do West Side Story?
I'm tone deaf, so I wouldn't have been cast in West Side Story, but definitely my ear could have done it. They were well musical.
Well, if you're tone deaf, that's the musical version of Dex Legacy Scupper.
Yeah.
Ewan McGregor's available.
Well, Ewan McGregor can sing. We've all seen Moulin Rouge or whatever it is.
We'll get him to be your stunt voice, Louis.
Yeah.
I'm sure he'll be stoked for that.
I'm really good at miming. I used to air guitar in the mirror all the time.
Didn't we all?
Yeah. I say used to.
Yeah, I know. I was just
it's not that far. Yeah.
Like last night.
Yeah. I'm just practicing for my Biffy Clyro tribute act, Stiffy Clyro, you know.
A band whose singer you have been known to resemble.
Yeah, trying my best.
Annika, are you a big air guitar fan or heavy metal or anything like that?
I mean, you can get me with some classic rock, but the heavy metal is I have to pass.
What about singing? I mean, when we take the musical of Dex Legacy out on the UK tour, I mean, is Osa going to have her own numbers? Do you think? Or?
I mean, if she likes some jazz, we can sprinkle that in. But besides that, let's keep it on the down low. I think she might have a cold that day, so
just make it really husky.
Yeah,
I think that could work. I think Osa doing jazz could work actually.
Osa scatting, man.
Yeah,
scatting with Otto. Scatting with Otto.
Osa and Otto on a duet. That would be weird.
Doing a jazz version of Electric Dreams.
Cut. And here we are with that version of Electric Dreams. Please don't sue us. So, just trying to be relatively serious for a moment. So if there are any actors listening that were thinking of getting into voice acting, what give us a top 3 tips for people wanting to do a bit of voice acting. I'll put you on the spot now, haven't I?
Yeah.
Silence is great for radio.
I think you have to take risks. Like, don't be afraid to sound silly, and also don't think that what you hear is not what's cool for the character or whatever you're doing. Like, it might work perfectly, but you think, oh my God, how do I sound? So yeah, just have fun with it and not be afraid.
Yeah. One thing you always do, Annika, you do quite a few takes, don't you, of each line? So I always have so many options. That's probably quite a good tip, isn't it, for voice actors? Give the director as many options as you can, and they're all. I mean, we always listen through. I say we. Emily always listens through to all the lines and suggests which one, and it's so usual that you'll give us like 5 or 7 takes, and it's kind of like any of them really. They're all brilliant, and so yeah.
Yeah, I always I go first and I listen to them all first, and I sort of go, okay, one underneath I put the numbers. I go 1, 2, 3, and they're the ones that I like, so I list them. Sometimes it's 2, 4, and then that's it, or something. And often with all of you, actually, there's moments where I'm like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, and then I just go, any of them.
I just get any written in the margin, and it's like, well, thanks for narrowing that down for me.
Yeah, how do you? Sorry, and then we can get back to the other question.
No,
how do you decide on like how to put like what take gets selected? Because I guess if everybody gives different versions, then the story could go anyway. Like. Well, in so many different directions.
Yeah, I mean, we could probably do 3 or 4 different versions of every script using the alternate takes, and it would be subtly different. But generally, what I go with, I mean, if Emily says it's got to be take 2, I'll generally go with that. But what I'm trying to listen to, because I'm slightly scared of Emily, because I think she'll get another producer or recast Nathaniel Dex.
Oh yeah, at this stage, that's a really sensible.
Roger Moore, for example. She's talked about getting Roger Moore in. Anyway, so what I generally will do though is go, what's the best follow-up to the line before? So it becomes this kind of chain, and then the next one will be what's the best response to the line we've just picked, the best response to the line before, and so on and so on. And it kind of just stacks like that, really. And hopefully it sounds listeners will be able to tell us this or not, but hopefully it sounds like we were in the same room, all speaking, whereas we actually weren't. So I don't know.
I mean, your mixing for that is amazing, especially with you two when you're having a conversation in the thing, like when I'm listening to it, and then I have to remind myself that you're not actually talking to each other live. You are like, you were recording completely separately, and that just, every time I realize that, is like a moment. Yeah, I mean, when it comes to selecting lines, I know all of the characters inside out. I've spent 500,000 words with these people. I know them, and I do have an idea of what they would sound like when they're delivering certain lines. And there are moments where I'm sort of listening and I'm like, and then I'm like, yes, that one is exactly right. And sometimes when I'm listening, I'm like, and then I'm like, ooh, interesting, that could work. And there are some times when I'm listening and then I'm in the middle of drinking some wine and I almost snorted out of my nose because one of you has done something absolutely brilliant and hilarious that I didn't see coming at all. And I'm like, yeah, we have to have that in. Yeah. Louis, you're very good at that.
Louis, have you got any tips for budding voice actors? So if you and McGregor, for example, wanted to get into voice acting, what would you advise them?
If Ian McGregor's looking to do it, I'd say don't, please. But anybody else, I spent so much time being afraid to do something because I was like, oh well, I don't have the kit, or I don't have this thing. Like, yeah, kit is important, right? But like, I did my first audition for Alt Stories on my iPhone. Right, we're all doing self-tapes. Well, I certainly am doing self-tapes on my iPhone. You don't need an SLR. You don't. If you want to do something, you see an opportunity or an audition, just record it on anything. Like, I wouldn't recommend auditioning via Smoke Signal, but give it a bash. You know what I mean? But just take that risk and put your voice out there. Like, you might not be right for that specific part that you've gone for, but they've heard your interpretation, they've heard your voice, which is always a good thing. And then if you ever come into a bit of money, or if you have a birthday coming up, look into mics. Do make that purchase, but don't not do it because you think you don't have the equipment, because we're all walking around with smartphones or laptops. We've all got the equipment. We've all got the equipment, and for the most part, we've all got voices as well. So just use it. Don't be afraid to. Don't be. That's your main bit of kit is you. So just use the kit that you've got. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. I seem to recall we cast you in something based on an iPhone audition. Yeah, and it was just after lockdown. The first lockdown had started, and we had to get a microphone.
Yeah.
Try and locate the last microphone on Amazon, because everyone had decided they were going to do it from home and get it up to you. So so it worked in that circumstance, didn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask both of you, really. I mean, go back to before you went to drama school. I mean, how did you, or when did you decide that you wanted to be actors professionally? Go on, Annika, you go first.
I mean, I was really lucky that where I grew up, we had like a theater, and they did like a youth program where you, for a whole year, like you would start in the autumn and then develop a play, rehearse once a week, and then put it on, I think, like summertime. And I did that for like when I was 12 or 13 till the end of school at 18. And I was really like glad that I had that opportunity. And I don't know, I think after that, I was like, what else is there to life? You know, like you kind of get like in the community and like feel everyone, like how it's like becomes this family. And I really wanted to continue doing that. So
am I right in thinking you do other stuff around theatre as well? Do you direct as well?
yeah, so I'm also writing a bit, not so much at the moment, but also directing. Yes, I directed 3 plays so far. Then COVID happened. Now I'm currently working on something else. But yeah, I really like doing different things. And I mean, of course, you want to be good at one thing, maybe more. But
I'd like to be acceptable at one thing, to be honest.
No, but I think you learn. I think you learn from like all the different areas. Like I would have never thought about acting a certain way if I wouldn't have directed someone else, maybe, or if I would have never written something, I would never see like, okay, this is how the pace could go like this or that.
Yeah. And Lewie, what sort of age were you when you decided that you'd been bitten by the bug and you wanted to do it full time?
Well, when I was a kid, like my dad was a musician growing up, and like I was really into music, and like I wanted to be in a band, and then tried to play guitar. I wasn't very good at that. Tried to sing, I really was not good at that.
You became a bass player.
Yeah, and now I'm a really good drummer. No, so yeah, my dad was also really into films, so we watched films a lot. And I was like, oh, I'm just gonna be a film director. Like I watched Back to the Future, and I was like, I could tell them how to do that. Like I do that in the playground, man. Like that's easy. Anyway, found out that, like you don't just sneeze and get into Hollywood. And then 14, my school did We Will Rock You the musical, and I went, oh, I'll give that a bash. I quite like drama. It seems like good crack. Did that, and I went, wow, well, I never want to stop doing that. And then just tried to get as many opportunities as I could. And between that and rugby, I was at the house pretty much every night of the week between rehearsals and stuff. So it wasn't great for schoolwork, but you don't need that if you're going to be an actor, you know what I mean? So yeah, and I was really fortunate growing up. It was just before all funding was cut, so there was a fair amount of, especially growing up in a slightly rural area, central government was like, oh, we've kind of abandoned these people for a long time. we should maybe help the hillbillies. So yeah, I got some incredible opportunities through that, or because of that. So yeah, I'm very fortunate.
I knew we'd get slightly political at some point. Emily, you've done a bit of acting as well, haven't you?
Yeah, so like you two, I grew up opposite the Chichester Festival Theatre, and they had the Chichester Festival Youth Theatre, which was like, it's a good one, and it was across the road. And back then it was £2.50 a week to go for like workshops once a week, and they did the productions 2 a year. One was open air, always promenade, and another one was on the main. We did the Christmas main stage ones, and that's because the theatre was in financial straits, right? And so the best way they could make all of their money back was by using child labour, and they didn't pay us, and they filled out the house every single night over Christmas, and that basically got them back on the financial, so back on track financially. And so yeah, I was very happy to be part of that child labor exploitation, and did a lot of that. And it was from the age of about 12 until 17, 18, and I really wanted to be an actress for a very long time, but my parents were very much on the plan B sort of side of things. And so I ended up doing English literature, and now I'm a writer. I write at work, and also here I basically decided I'm going to be good at one thing, so I'm going to be good at words, and I'm going to be good at English because I'm rubbish at other languages. So if I'm going to be only one language person, I'm going to be good at it, and I'm going to know all of the words, and I'm going to spend all of my life thinking words. And yeah, but now I actually find myself doing a bit of acting, even if it is a robot under a duvet. Who saw that coming?
I've invited you to audition for, non-digital roles, shall we say?
Yes, I have to do that audition. I have ideas. Yeah.
Excellent.
Watch me go, parents.
But by ideas, is that acting ideas, or have you just started redrafting the audition lines? There's a better word for that.
I found one or two problems in this script, so I've redrafted it for you.
So
it's now in space.
It's now a musical.
We've spoken to Ewan McGregor's people, and he's in.
Use the force.
Yeah. So one more sort of acty sort of related question, and I want you to I'll go first on this one so you can think, but because I haven't warned you of this one, I want you to think of one actor, Ewan McGregor, that's influenced you more than any other. So who would be your favourite actor? And I will go first. And I'm going to say Alan Rickman. And I don't know why, but I just love that sort of the Snape voice, Harry Potter. But I actually saw Alan Rickman at the Royal Shakespeare Company in, I won't say exactly when because it was a long time ago. But seeing an actor like Alan Rickman live was just amazing. So so he's mine. So we'll go that way. Louis, Ewan McGregor, obviously. Emily, no, sorry, sorry.
I do have massive respect for Ewan McGregor, even though I've slagged him off the last
speaks very highly of you as well.
Well, the worrying thing is his brother lives in Elgin, so like I might get a chap at the door, and my kneecaps will be broken. No, it's a tricky
Lovely
one.
town, Elgin.
Yeah, that's why I came back. McAvoy's definitely up there. I would say it's a toss-up between James McAvoy and Stephen Graham. Two both just phenomenal. Both very short men. So I'm winning on the height front, a little 6 foot. But just insanely talented in their sort of their ability to just completely inhabit a role and just have that natural like charisma whilst quite often playing the darker side of the humanity scale or whatever is just I'm completely in awe of that ability. So yeah, those two. I know it was meant to be one, but
very
two
good choices there.
Yeah.
Read the question. Read the question next time.
I told you I didn't do well on my exams. I was at the house every night.
Annika.
I would say Natalie Portman. I don't know. I feel like she's very intelligent and she knows her stuff. But she's also she's a chameleon, and she always brings this sensitivity, which I find really like jarring. It's not like, oh, strong woman has to fight like a man. It's very like smart and very intelligent. And I really like that about her.
No, great choice, actually. Emily?
Anthony Hopkins. His delivery is just incredible, and he has a very light touch vocally, but he also has this incredibly commanding presence, and again has this ability to tap into the darker side of sort of humanity, but with that same lightness of touch. And it's very interesting to watch and to listen to as well. I find his voice fascinating to listen to. And I think there's a thing that he sort of, listening to him sort of helped me to do. Obviously, you guys have been taught by very, very professional, known like people about how to do this. But when I listen to him, I realized that a lot of acting is part of like reading the words and then letting the words kind of settle and then thinking, okay, well, how would the characters say it? Not just reading the words off the page. how would they actually, like, if they were just living and breathing and having a conversation, how would those words come out of their mouth? Like, you know, and getting them off the page and into the mouth. And for some reason, Anthony Hopkins just, led me to that.
It's meant to be an amazing chat between him and Jim Carrey. I've never seen it, so this could be complete libel. I was told it, but apparently they both studied the same type of bird for Ace Ventura and Clarice. What's that character? Hannibal, yeah. And they have a conversation about studying this bird. I've never seen the chat, but it sounds fascinating.
Huh.
We'll all be googling that. Afterwards. So
what about you, Chris?
Well, I mean Rickman.
Oh yeah, you started off.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yes, of course.
I mean, I'm trying to think of. No, it would have to be Rickman. Just so many brilliant roles, and I did have that. I saw Christopher Eccleston's Macbeth at the Royal Shakespeare Company from the second row, so like really, really close, and that was very powerful. Mainly because I got covered in blood, actually. Well, obviously not actual blood.
Actual blood.
Actual blood. Actual fake blood reached as far as the second row. So there was a power to that coming out of the theatre with actual blood on my shirt and thinking, who can I sue?
Yeah. Where do I get my refund?
Yeah, the shirt costs $12.99.
Go full Karen at the RSC.
Yeah.
Do it.
Yes.
I'll send you my bill.
Yeah. I would say Olivia Colman as well, just to sort of address the gender balance, because I said two men and realised actually there's so many women out there that are phenomenal, but Colman, man, that Lost Daughter, I watched that recently.
Yeah, it's fantastic, wasn't it?
It's sort of, it went, because it came out around Christmas, right? But it's not exactly a feel-good film, so it sort of went under the radar. But it was
there's no elves in it at all, are there?
No, it's a blinding piece of work, though, man.
It really is
brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Well, we need to move on from acting, because there was one particular question that Emily had written, and I think it's really going to get to the heart of, you know, so much of what it is to be not just actors, not just writers, but human beings, really. And Emily, what was that question?
This is the soul question, and it is a soul question because it's sneaky. It sneaks up on you. The question is, what is your all-time favorite biscuit, and why?
That's a cookie for our American listeners.
Yeah. So I'm going to start off with Annika, and think about this. This is the biscuit that you hold most dear.
How far can we expand biscuit category? Because my answer would be,
don't bring us a cake, Annika.
Neapolitan waffle.
Okay.
Like this little waffle thing with like nougat cream inside. And you can get them also as rounds. So they look like a cookie.
Okay.
I think.
And why?
Yeah, but by that logic, wheels are cookies.
Okay.
I don't fancy chewing on a tire. Well, I agree that that's a biscuit, but the logic may be slightly flawed.
Yeah. I mean, it's round, so yeah.
I think it's a biscuit cake hybrid, really. The waffle. But I do love a waffle, actually.
I don't know, because it melts in your mouth. I thought like biscuit, you know.
Okay.
Just realizing how hungry I am, actually. Now.
I am very hungry. When you said that tongue twister earlier with the gorgonzola, I was like, and yes.
Who would you like to do biscuit narrative next?
Louis.
It's a tricky one. I know I made that vegan joke earlier, but I actually went vegan about 5 years ago now. So like malt milks and like Rockies are kind of all off the table for me now. But bourbons are vegan and they really remind me of being a kid. Like a bourbon and a crush a milkshake before bed. And like gladiators on the telly. That's maybe like the most 90s sentence that's ever been said. I just need like a mustard cardi and some ripped jeans, and I can be Kurt Cobain and unplugged, man. But yeah, probably a bourbon.
The biscuit, not the
yeah, not the drink. Yeah.
Oh, I've been in trouble for that on Twitter before. I talked about bourbons and lots of American people just assume that you're American on Twitter. And they were all giving me advice on how to wean myself off the bourbon, and I was having to explain repeatedly this is an American biscuit.
I didn't have you down as an alcoholic.
Americans don't have biscuits. They have, So
I'd say Jammy Dongers get an honourable muncheon though.
Really?
Yeah, they're vegan, so they're one of the only options out there. But yeah,
we better
Oreo. That's
sorry.
Cat amongst the pigeons, which isn't a vegan expression because it uses animals.
I don't know. I think cats naturally go for pigeons.
Oh, that's food chain, right? But
humans aren't
we shouldn't
using
be encouraging
cats or
that.
Pigeons in that scenario. That's just cats and pigeons.
By mentioning that on a popular podcast chat edition, we're kind of legitimizing that, cat pigeon massacre relationship, and I don't think we should.
Which is outside of human.
I'll edit this out. It's okay. Then.
Okay.
I'll edit it.
It's all right. I'm team Tweety Pie. I never liked Sylvester, man.
Okay,
Chris, what's your favorite biscuit?
Well, we discussed this earlier. I'm a cheap date when it comes to biscuits. I do like custard creams, and custard creams and bourbons. They are just so ridiculously cheap, aren't they? You can like 12p, you can get 70. That's not quite like that, but you can have a lot. And I know they're low quality. What I did discover the other day, which I don't recommend, is rhubarb and custard creams, and that's just wrong on every level.
Are they just really poorly animated, or?
That's one for anyone who grew up in the UK watching 5-minute cartoons called Rhubarb and Custard.
Yeah.
We'll post a picture.
That's beyond my years, by the way. That's good cultural knowledge. I'm coming across like I'm about 40 years old on this podcast.
I remember when it came out, so that ages me, doesn't it? And the theme music. Maybe we'll get a clip of the theme music and put it in here.
Yeah, sure.
Underscore.
Yeah, let's just devalue everything by doing that, shall we?
I would say elevate.
Elevate, really?
Yes.
We're as bad as that, are we?
We'll elevate with layers of cultural references.
Anyway,
Yes.
Like an episode of Community.
Exactly.
So let's leave it. Let's leave it there on the biscuit front. So custard creams, but not rhubarb flavour.
Not rhubarb.
Emily, my honourable and learned friend, do you have any further questions for our defendants?
Oh yeah. Just one quick one. What do you wish people would do or tell you when you're about to do acting? Like a direction. Sorry, that didn't come out particularly well. What's the one thing you wish all writers or directors would tell you before you record, except for how to pronounce the names? Because I know, my bad.
There have been times when we've not told people, and for every version of Oscilia, we've had about 17 versions of the word Xenossi or Oscilian, because these aren't places you can't go to Xenos.
In my head, I know exactly why. Like, of course, Jakra, you don't pronounce the H, but then, we don't tell you guys that. And then in one conversation, we have the same word being pronounced 5 different times, 5 different ways in one conversation. And that's entirely my bad. So apart from that, what is the one thing you wish directors, writers, or you always need them to tell you about before you get going?
The one I stumbled across, or when I was assistant directing, I assistant directed a play a couple of just before COVID. We were the last play on before COVID hit, and one day I just gave the note, "Back yourselves," and it became the mantra of the show. And actually, like, that's what I try and tell myself, and everybody around me before auditions, before anything, just back yourself. Like, you can only do what you're gonna do. It's like going back to you are your own kit. Like, just back yourself, man. It puts all the pressure on you, but completely takes all the pressure off as well, because you can only do what you can do. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'd like to hear that. I'm gonna write it up like Ted Lasso. Instead.
Excellent. Annika, any thoughts?
For me, it's more like just either be as clear as you can be with whatever you're trying to say. Don't try to explain why, just say what you mean. Or give a really good reference that is very good to understand. Because I got so many times very lost, and then it's all very confusing. So being very clear is good.
Yeah, clarity. That's the thing I always say, actually, to actors is, I mean, clearly in audio drama, all we've got is the voices. And so there's no room, even if it's in character, for kind of mumbling and sort of, talking in corners. It's got to be, because it's all we've got. It's got to be clear. So that's the one thing I always say. Not something I always follow, actually. Sometimes I've done lines and I've come to edit them in, and I thought, oh God, what was I doing? So I then have to stop, pause everything, save it all, go and do my lines again, like a naughty schoolboy, and couple them back together. So don't do what I do, kids.
Do as I say, not as I do.
Exactly. Yeah, there's Boris again. So Ewan McGregor says that as well. So one final thing I wanted to just talk a little bit about was, and this is a Emily and Annika question, and I don't know whether it was, well, it's probably inadvertent, I think, but Osa is the most quotable character. There are some brilliant Osa one-liners. My favourite was, "There's a word for people like you. It begins with psycho and ends in path," which was a brilliant one. I love the one in the last episode where you refer to Idris as a punk and a pirate, and it was the way you said it. I just thought it was just so brilliant. So, I mean, you must love doing lines like that, Annika.
I think they're lines that you can have a lot of fun with, because they're so like fun and funky and playful. So yeah. And I mean, I never expect you to pick out a line. So if you do, awesome. But yeah, I think you also don't play them maybe as like wow factors. I'm trying to do something with my hand, which doesn't translate to audio. Maybe that's the physicalization of what when I'm recording.
I'm sure the listeners could tell
exactly.
you were doing it.
Yeah.
So even if you have a line and you think this is just fantastic, you can't break character to like look at this line, listen to this, I'm just going to do this now. It's got to be natural, isn't it? And yeah.
Well,
so
the delivery can't be any different, otherwise it would break it for the audience, wouldn't it? So the delivery has to be just as casual as everything else, doesn't it? And
so I think the delivery for everything is just brilliant. But when you do get a line like that, it's just I just love it. I think I'm going to put a little reel of Osa one-liners together. In fact, if all goes well, you might hear it now. There we go. So Emily, when you're writing, I mean, are there particular characters you write for that you want to give them really good lines because you know that the actor will deliver them as well as Annika delivers those?
Well, obviously, I have a lot of fun with Osa's character, but mostly that's because Osa says all the things that I think people wish were being said. And one of the reasons for that is that Osa controls the missiles. She can say basically anything, and she's invaluable to Dex operations. So she knows that she would have to really, really, really upset Nathaniel for him to, sort of get her to clear off. So I think that gives Osa a lot of power, and also Osa is the most aware of what she is and what her colleagues are and what they're capable of. And so constantly poking fun at them a little bit and just always just sort of like telling them the truths that they are trying to avoid for themselves. And as a character, I find that very compelling. And obviously it opens up sort of the possibilities for great one-liners where she just sends a quip in the direction of one of her colleagues and and just cuts through the bullshit basically of what's going on in a scene. And yeah, obviously the delivery makes that work. But as a character, as a device as well, I mean, from a technical point of view, Osa is brilliant fun in that
absolutely
context. Yeah,
cool. So really, really final question then. Have any sort of friends or family members listened to the Dex Legacy, and what was their reaction if they have?
You are allowed to say nobody.
Well,
my
you could
brother,
even say they thought it was shit.
my brother actually listened to it. I mean, most of my family is not English speaking. They understand English, they speak a bit English, but it's not their native language. But my brother listened to it and he was like, oh, the story is so cool. So I don't know how much he understood, but what he understood, he definitely loved. So
fantastic. Okay, we'll save that as a review then. That's good. Thank you.
My folks have listened to it, and I mean, nobody here has met my mum, but if you'd met my mum, this would be a very good impression. She'd be like, what's this? It's very dark, isn't it, Lewie? And that quote is pretty, but she says that about anything I've been in. I've done a panto, and she's like, oh, it's a bit dark though, isn't it? Yeah. She's like, why do you always have to play the baddie? She was like, nobody sees you in this one. You don't need to be bad. I was like, thanks, Mum.
You should just kind of improvise and make Devek a really nice guy.
Well, yeah,
you'd want to go down the pub with,
She keeps calling me Ewan as well. It's really weird.
Is that right? So no change there, though.
Yeah.
Have you had any good reviews, Emily? I mean, that's not to say there aren't any good reviews. Anything quotable?
Please, anybody out there?
Just someone.
No. My mum's classic review is it's a bit gloopy, and that's when things have got blood in them.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So what's funny with the Blood Road is that with the Dex Legacy is that she can imagine no gloop. So even in The Hunt, when Ren goes into a cave and slaughters 16 people and comes out and they literally say in the transport, he is covered in blood. And I said, wasn't it a bit gloopy? And she was like, no, it was fine, no gloop.
Okay. I thought she was going to suggest like an alternative where Ren arrives with a bottle of Coke and some biscuits or something for 16 people.
Cream, obviously.
Some bourbons.
Cake, anyone?
Exactly. Distracts them all with cake while he sneaks in around the cake.
That's a version I would very much like to hear.
Yeah. It's not a version I would ever write.
No, we'd have to get a different writer in. Annika, are you available to write the alternative Dex Legacy?
I would never take that away from Emily, so it's all yours. But
a very diplomatic answer.
Very diplomatic.
No,
Want to be in
actually,
series 2?
exactly. No, I actually wanted to ask you. I don't know if you have time for one question, but why did you decide to make the audiobook like a prequel to the three books you wrote? Yeah.
Yeah, it's because it's purely strategic. When if my book gets picked up by a publisher, the editor may make changes to the story, and I don't know what those changes would be. And I wanted whatever we did with the recording to be evergreen. And so the best way to do that is make it happen before. And then whatever happens in the intervening 11 years could explain why whatever character is no longer in it, or whatever event is not referred to, or whatever. It was about being able to keep it relevant while not necessarily knowing what is going to get changed potentially in the book.
So we have 11 more years to be filled with audiobooks. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, we've got series 7 planned out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I've outlined up until the age of 21 at this point. Yeah, really 3 years.
Yeah, but then season 2 is seriously, season 2 is certainly in preparation, isn't it? You showed me a diagram of season 2.
Yeah.
I didn't understand it, did I? But that's just me, really. Right. Well, in true meeting fashion, I'm going to end by saying, is there any other business? No. Well, in that case, I will thank you, Lewie Watson, Annika Kordes, Emily Inkpen. I've been Chris Gregory, and thank you for listening. And please listen and subscribe to the Dex Legacy if you haven't already. Thank you.